My name is Heidi Lubin. I am the EVP of Corporate and Product Development at Modular S. And we're here to share the results of our Fighting Ebola Grand Challenge grant from USAID, the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, CDC, and DoD. So the problem, let's see, when President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia spoke with Obama earlier this year, she asked for three basic things. She said, look, we need road infrastructure, the ability to get past it. We need to be able to power our treatment centers, and we need better water and sanitation. And these images that you see here are images from Sierra Leone, a mixture of IMC and Médecins Sans Frontières treatment centers. You can see there's corrosion on the tents in the lower right from the Clorox bleach cleaning solution. Patients are uncomfortable, it's difficult to reach them, power's a mess. Sanitation, water treatment, very difficult, that's on the right. On the left, they actually do have containers that are going there already, but they're not using that infrastructure. So we proposed rapidly deployable net zero energy off-the-grid buildings. And you can see here in kind of the very conceptual that it's 100% solar. The modules snap together like Legos. You have energy storage and genset backup, and it deploys very quickly. So you can deploy with about 10 people in 3 to 7 days. So it sounds too good to be true. This is an image of the alpha version of our thermal envelope in Ketchum, Idaho, which has been operable for about 6 years now, on about now 50 buildings. And this building, this home, should be about $700 to heat in a cold February, and it's about $100. So our team is serial entrepreneurs, architect, noted computer scientist and venture capitalist John Schock, Anna Cassili, who started Salesforce at, the Salesforce for Oracle and others. We also work with Arup engineers, Livermore and Idaho National Labs and others. Here's what the plan looks like. The perimeter is basically you can go in and out and around the perimeter. The patients then have privacy but can be easily reached. Everything is washed down to drain. We had enough solar to power a rapid communications unit so that you can have wireless, which is a critical life-saving technology in a lot of these areas. Here are a couple interior renderings. The walls are coated with, in this case, with a direct contact kill bactericidal material called Cuvero, which is EPA certified, and you have a couple different bed regimes. And then the deployment, it deploys off of a proprietary rail and platform system. So I'm going to show you guys an animation, and you'll see how this works. And I'll walk you through it. So the logo, it's nice. But basically, you see the proprietary ribbon wall. It ships without the thermal panels, and part of the reason for that is in these jurisdictions, you can actually choose to force protect the panels. So it was particularly heartbreaking to me over the weekend what happened to the MSF facility in Kunduz, because I couldn't help but think, well, if maybe we had been able to force protect those facilities, that maybe we would have been able to save more lives there. And so what you see here is you were seeing the modules snap together, and then the thermal panels snap on. We have windows, which is a huge deal. One of the challenges they've had in these jurisdictions is that there are no windows on the tent, since the local community and the families, they can't see their patients when they're inside, and they start worrying that negative things are happening to them. You saw kind of your animator take you inside and outside the building briefly, and then we have enough solar power. There's shade in the middle so the patients can be shaded when they want to go outside. They are allowed to go outside when they feel better.
And thank you.
Well, I can tell you that this is a massive issue that you're trying to address, and we've talked to a lot of the same folks that are tackling these problems, so I'm glad you're doing this. The hardest thing is getting from that rendering to the actual built model. So can you talk a little bit about your plans and who's going to be building these and the timeline there?
No, happy to, and thank you also for your work. It'd be fun to work together on,
for sure.
on the tent and more deployable structures, but especially for triage. But so we have manufacturing in Ketchum for very small volumes, and then we have Booz Allen Hamilton Engineering Services in Florida, which is great because it's a port city, in our closest location to get out there, on board to manufacture in larger volumes. And so we've just finished all of the design development with Arup Engineering. Livermore is doing some panel testing on the thermal side right now. And then Booz we can bring in to do the design for manufacturability. But we're pretty close to the way there. Also, like all of the materials are building code approved. So that's not an issue.
Yeah, great. So where are you going to make them?
In Panama City, Florida.
Okay.
That's where, that's where Booz Allen Hamilton Engineering Services is.
So you're deploying it onto a rail, which seems pretty clever.
Oh, I can't go back. Okay.
What's the infrastructure that goes underneath it?
So the nice thing about that is you can deploy it on uneven land, which is why it addresses
That's
the road infrastructure issues. And
Right.
so we can put like a really easy system of like piping underneath to actually address water and sanitation issues. And then deploy on uneven ground with you can just put piers. So you can have that be as high or as low as you'd like. No more questions, really?
Yeah, I have a question. What happens, are these, once they're deployed, how long can they be in a place? In other words, can they become permanent structures, or do they have to be, what happens to them after the disaster?
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you asked. Thank you for asking that. So, yes, they can become permanent structures. Couple different options. So we've talked to the Department of Defense preliminarily, because the reason why I know maybe in some of our communities we get a little bit skeptical, shall we say, about the Department of Defense, but a lot of these hard assets that are deployed by USAID in these disasters are actually owned by DoD, and so it's a very multidisciplinary collaborative effort. So DoD has preliminarily rated our structures to have a 25-year life, whereas the current ones have a 4 to 8 year life. So they can stay there. And we can use our structural system, which pours concrete inside the ribbon wall on the exterior perimeters. I wish I could show you, but and make it convert to a permanent structure, which would be what they call a leave behind for soft power, which has become an important tool for empowerment and civic engagement in a lot of these local jurisdictions, and something that we've explored a lot and would very much like to do. And then the neat thing about that is that when you then want it to be a structural solution, the same sort of Lego building blocks for our solution, we can leverage into other markets as permanent structures.
Can you move the structure to, if you don't need it any longer, instead of a leave behind that may not be needed, can you move it somewhere new?
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll undeploy in about the same amount of time. So the 3 to 7 days, depending upon the complexity of the structure. This is a 2-building unit. But it'll undeploy and then take it off to the next place. So what we'd really like to do is we're trying to help build a market and build a paradigm shift around leaving some of these resources in strategic locations so that we can react very quickly when things like what happened in Kunduz happened over the weekend, or even in South Carolina, what's happened there over the last few days, that we can react really quickly. Oh.
And thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.